I want to talk to you today about 5 habits that push people away. And maybe something that we talk about here today will help you stop doing it. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not talking to you like some know-it-all, some guru that's going to solve all your problems. I'm talking to you today about the same problems that I've had over my whole life. And some of them I'm still working on. So this is a work in progress. And I want you to know that none of this is going to solve any problem you have overnight. But what it might do is give you something to think about. And if it does that, it's mission accomplished. That's why I make these videos, is because I want to help people grow. People have helped me, and I want to help you. Let's get into it. All right. The first habit, and this is the one I'm the most guilty of, and that is bragging. That's something that will push people away more than anything. Bragging about your accomplishments, trying to outdo other people, whatever it might be. You know, I've had friends over the years that every time they would tell a story or they'd tell something, you know, I would try to top it with something. And anytime I had some accomplishment that I was proud of, I would make sure everybody knew about it. I think it might have been, I'm not playing amateur psychologist here, but I guess I am, but it may have been just because of my insecurity. I mean, we all have our insecurities, right? And maybe that's what I'd try to do. I'd try to hide my own insecurities by proving to myself or to other people that I was somebody who should be bragged upon. And that doesn't really work. All it really does is just push people away. All right, the second one I want to talk about is whining and being negative. I've never been much of a whiner, but I have been very negative about a lot of things in my life. And if that's something that you struggle with, maybe you need to just step back and think about it. The bottom line is that most people, I won't say everybody, the people who truly love you and care about you, they care, but most people don't. Most people don't care about you, they care about themselves. They don't care about what you're going through, they only care about what they're going through themselves. So when you're whining all the time and you're being negative all the time, let's be honest, people don't want to be around you. I don't want to be around people who are negative all the time. Whiners, and you know, they're always complaining. Something's always wrong. And I'm not, you know, it might be their health or whatever. Yeah, we talk about that. But that's not really what I'm talking about so much, is that they're just negative about everything. And boy, do we get a face full of it every time we open up Facebook. I mean, it's just negativity after negativity, you know, just stacked on top. How can we stop that? It takes a change in attitude. You got to remember that, first of all, the things that bug me may bug other people and they may not. But either way, my whining and going on and on about it isn't going to change anything. So over the years, I've learned to be less negative, more positive. And sometimes I find that I just have to not say anything. Because, you know, that my parents used to teach me when I was a little boy. You know, if you don't have something good to say, don't say anything at all. Well, that's not always true. It's a pretty good little rule of thumb, but it's not always true, because sometimes we have to speak up. But most of the time, if we think for just a few seconds before we speak, we'll realize we probably don't even need to say anything. Okay? The third one is, and this has been a pet peeve of mine, because I recognize it in myself. I have been the world's worst at this. And I want to tell you, I still deal with this. And that is not listening or butting in. And I think those are kind of the same things. You know, sometimes I would find myself listening to the other person talk, but not really hearing what they're saying, because all I was waiting on them to do was to stop talking so I could say what I wanted to say. And that's a terrible habit to get into, and it's something that I still struggle with. You know, I'm not as bad as I used to be. I'm making progress. But at this stage in the game, I still do it. I try my best to be an active listener, to really listen to what the person is saying. You know, if we're in a conversation or whatever, I want to listen to what they're saying. Maybe ask them a leading question. Ask them about something that they just talked about. To have a real conversation and not just taking turns talking. The other one is butting in. I've been really bad for that. Somebody will start to say something, and instead of me letting them finish, I'll just jump in and, kind of fix it for them real fast, or, and all I'm wanting to do is just shut them up. And that's a bad thing to get into. If you do that, it's one of those things. So many of our problems, the habits that we have that push people away, can be solved by just slowing down the brain just a little bit. Just slow down the mouth a little bit. Just think for a second or two before we jump in and say something or do something or butt in and cut somebody off. All right, number 4. This is one that really gets me, and it's one that I used to do, but I'll have to say I overcame this one pretty quickly most of the time. I'm certainly not 100% over anything. I'm not a good enough person that, I've stopped all these things. I've slowed this one way down though, and that is checking your phone. When you're having a conversation with somebody and you pull out your phone and you look at it, man, that's just a conversation killer. That's a real turnoff for people. And I know I'm the old guy, get off my lawn and all that kind of stuff. But I believe if people are having a conversation, have a conversation. If you're one-on-one, if you're in a group or whatever, there's 3 or 4 of you, leave the phone alone. Now, I get it. Sometimes there might be some kind of emergency. Maybe you left the kids at home with a sitter or something like that. But you can put your phone on silent or do not disturb. And if they're on your list, you know how to fix your phones. If they ring through like 3 times, they call like 3 times or 5 times. I don't know what it is, something like that. I mean, I've got my kids set on that emergency thing. And if there's a real emergency, they know that they can call my number over and over and it will eventually ring through. Otherwise, it can wait. When you pick up your phone, when you're sitting at a table with somebody or you're in a bar or you're having a conversation, you're hanging out somewhere, and somebody's talking and you're picking up your phone, what you're saying to that person is, whatever is on this phone is more important to me than listening to you and spending time with you. That could really, really get you. It just does. I've got a group of guys I ride motorcycles with, and we used to have this little pact, and we kind of still do it. And that is when we would go in and sit down somewhere to eat, we would all put our phones on silent, and we would turn them face down on the table and put them in a stack. We'd put them in a little pile in the middle of the table. And we had this agreement, and it worked out really well for us, that until the meal is over and the conversation, the after dinner or whatever it is, conversation's over and the drinks are over and we're ready to get up and head back out and get back on the bikes and start riding some more, until that moment came, if one person grabbed their phone and checked it before we were all ready to leave, then that person had to buy everybody's meal. And I tell you what, we stuck to it and it worked. And it was amazing what it did for our conversations. Okay, so that might be something that you want to try. All right, here's the last one. This might catch you a little bit by surprise, but it's one that really turns people off. And I'll have to say that I have been the world's worst for this. It took me years to get over it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm still not completely past it, but I'm conscious of it and I really, really try. What is this one thing that really pushes people away from you? Being late. When somebody says, we're going to start at 10 o'clock and you roll in there at, 2 minutes after 10, they take that as a real insult. And I'll tell you when this really came home for me, it was back years ago. My best friend for 35 years, Jimmy. If you've watched any of my other videos, you may have heard me talk about him. But Jimmy was my best friend, and Jimmy was a person who could be brutally honest with me, and I would actually listen to him because I knew he was saying what he was saying because he loved me and because he was trying to help me. He looked at me one day and he called me Robbie. Don't hold that against me, but he did till the day he died. He called me Robbie because we'd been friends so long. He said, Robbie, being late is an insult to me. And I was like, why is it an insult? I mean, I didn't get it. I was just dumb. It just didn't register with me. Why is that insulting? I mean, yeah, I know you got to sit there for a couple minutes waiting on me or whatever. He said, and I believe him now, and I've never forgotten it, and I've tried to fix it. But what he said was, when you are late, you're telling the other person that your time is worth more than their time, that you're more important than they are. That's not the vibe I want to give off anymore. I did it for years. I'm still late every now and then, but not nearly as often as I used to be, because I really am conscious of that. I don't want to insult people by being late. I don't want to come off like my time is more important than your time, so you have to sit around and wait on me. That's a tough one. So, these are some things to think about. 5 habits: bragging, whining, not listening, checking your phone, being late. Just some things to think about. I hope it helps you. I'm certainly not perfect at it. I'm still working on them myself. If you like what I'm talking about, or you know anybody who wants to or needs to hear these things, like this video, help me get it out there. Share it. Share it with a friend. Share it with somebody, maybe not a friend. Share it with people you think need to hear it, okay? Subscribe to the channel. Help me get these videos out. Thank you for watching.